We out here? So here comes this article that I was just talking about. It's that Hacker Noon article. Behind the canvas, the hidden cost of AI-generated Ghibli art. How millions of users unwittingly fed their facial data to ChatGPT and the consequences that followed. Picture this for once. You're scrolling through your favorite AI art generator, captivated by how your basic pictures were converted to a beautifully rendered Ghibli-inspired portrait, and that too within seconds. The magic of this automated image generation meets the whimsical world of Studio Ghibli, allowing you to create art with the click of a button. But beneath the surface of this captivating digital renaissance lies a troubling reality. In this article, we delve into the unsettling truth behind the AI art revolution, focusing on how millions of users have unknowingly contributed their facial recognition data to AI platforms. This is not only about the art you create, it is also about the personal data you leave behind, the possible consequences that could reshape security, and the future of digital art itself. The rise of AI-generated art and the Ghibli aesthetic. It reads as follows. Don't forget, as I say again, an opinion piece by somebody. The explosion of AI-generated art has been fueled by platforms like DALL-E, Midjourney, and ChatGPT, and has given users an unparalleled opportunity to create stunning visuals with just a few words prompts. One particular style that has been dominating the AI art world is the nostalgic, dreamlike quality of Studio Ghibli. Generations have been enthralled by Ghibli's whimsical charm, from Princess Mononoke to My Neighbor Totoro. And AI now makes it possible for anybody to create similar fantastical worlds. However, as more users went to these sites to produce their own Ghibli-inspired works of art, they inadvertently joined a far wider ecology of data harvesting. Not only are ChatGPT and other AI systems educated on text, but they also take in a variety of additional personal information like facial recognition data. And unaware of the consequences, users unintentionally enter their facial expressions, feelings, and even micro-reactions into the algorithms that drive these sites. Facial recognition, the invisible price of creative freedom. Well, even if AI-powered creative production is unquestionably innovative, it is critical to recognize the hidden costs that many users incur. Systems for facial recognition are modeled to examine every nuance of a person's face, which also includes emotions and minute variations in expression. Platforms like ChatGPT may be collecting biometric markers in addition to visual data when they request access to your camera and let users upload images. These markers could be utilized for purposes well beyond creating art. Every time you engage with an AI model, you're not just interacting with a tool. You're feeding an algorithm. For millions of users, this data is not just used to improve art generation. It is stored, analyzed, and could be monetized by third-party companies. And that's where things start to get murky. The Big Brother potential. Facial data and surveillance. The potential applications of facial recognition technology outside the creation of art are growing along with AI technology. What started off as a playful experiment with Ghibli's inspired graphics could eventually become a huge monitoring tool. Facial expression data can be used to forecast your behavior, customize material, and even subtly influence your emotions. Imagine this. Every smile, frown, or even the look of surprise could be analyzed and stored to create a digital profile of your emotional tendencies. Companies could then use that information to target you with ads or even influence the art you see, making it more aligned with your perceived emotional state. This, of course, assumes that facial recognition data is shared with or sold to third parties, a very real risk in an increasingly data-driven world. The ethics of AI art. Should we be concerned? At its core, the issue here isn't about privacy, but ethics. Is it right for platforms to collect facial data without clear consent? Should the creators of these tools be transparent about how this information is used? The fact that many consumers are ignorant on how their data is being utilized exacerbates the issue. We frequently don't recognize that we are consenting to the processing and use of our facial data in ways we don't completely comprehend when we click accept on a TOS agreement. It is the ethical duty of AI businesses to clarify this procedure and guarantee that users can manage their data. Real-world consequences. How facial data could be misused. Despite our desire to believe that our data is secure, practical examples have demonstrated that this is not the case. Facial recognition software has occasionally been used to follow people in public areas, track their motions for advertising, and even support mass monitoring. There is a great deal of opportunity for this technology to be abused, and it frequently is. Take the increasingly popular deepfake technology, which makes use of AI and facial recognition to produce incredibly lifelike recordings of people speaking things that they never actually uttered or said. Deepfakes might be amusing, but they can seriously jeopardize trust and privacy. It may soon be possible to produce deepfakes, sway public opinion, or harm reputations using the same facial data that drives art generators. Protecting your data, what can you do? Users must be more aware of their digital footprint in light of the possibilities. Here are a few steps you can actually take to protect your facial data. Be informed. Always review the platform's privacy policies. Verify what information they gather and how they intend to use it. Control your data. Whenever feasible, take advantage of solutions that give you data management capabilities. Platforms should offer the ability to anonymize or remove your data. Be vigilant. Remain alert by routinely checking and updating your accounts and devices' privacy settings. Give users access to facial recognition features with caution. Conclusion? The art of balance. One of the most fascinating developments in creative technology has been the emergence of AI-generated art, particularly the Ghibli-inspired designs, among other cartoons. However, though, we must also be aware of the hidden risks associated with this new frontier, as we continue to explore it. Despite its strength, facial recognition raises a number of privacy issues that should not be disregarded. As users, we must demand more transparency and better control over how our data is used. In parallel, companies need to take a more proactive role in safeguarding user privacy and ensuring that AI technologies are not misused for profit or surveillance. Regardless of it, the future of AI art is bright, but we must also ask ourselves, are we willing to trade our privacy for creativity? But it's not only that. Here are my own words. The system also is rife with, I should say, very stupid, really dense-headed such users, where the only real solutions would be the stuff that they can maintain an addiction to. Even so, in considering many other circumstances that can sometimes remain itself an actual digital disease, maintaining this authenticity, playing the real you instead of some wannabe. Does still matter even now, given only then finished a the big can of Red Bull Zero, fully consumed. Already learned a long time back, you just don't drink too much of it. Reactions within the body do, of course, exist. You only drink as much as you can. I'm really serious on this because you still have others where they don't know that they're actually poisoning the body by consuming too much of that, of those energy drinks. Just as one example. Another. The actual issue with today's people, there are not too many where they actually do learn from the past, like in the 70s stuff, 80s stuff, 90s stuff, the noughties, the 2000s, the 2010s. Where it was an era that they'd grown up understanding about the real world. When many kids and young youth still were impressionable and still running rather innocently in the real world. Brainwashed. But hasn't got much of what I call a tight grip on reality. They usually still learn the ebbs and flows of reality. It's no wonder, too, that there's a recent surge really on sort of depression as well as suicide attempts of recent. The big tech groups, and I'll say this once more, repeatedly still pretend what they do is really for the progress of a better society for all. Seen too much of the underbelly underneath. Yeah. Won't exaggerate, where they are sometimes cannibals themselves. You can lie all you will. I already know full well where they sometimes eat the dead underneath. Where their powers become just a little more powerful. Gaining both knowledge, but supposedly, well, a meal of some sort. We call it a snack. To the way, well, like a dead carcass in the animal kingdom. There's some that, get in early. They're not big animals. They get a little fill before bigger animals come, and they take what they call the lion's share, which is usually the saying when it comes. at large animals who get so much more than those smaller animals, but it is how it is. And it's not just that either. Deforestation, which takes away much of the food which mostly herbivores do, usually go to for sustenance and nutrition and a meal. I've already given up even speaking about the discussion. I've said so for so many years. In a way, it's a bit like, hydraulic fracturing that goes on some companies, the way that they're mining gases on underneath. Fracking would be the other term that many others use. It's still a problem even now. Not as large scale as it used to be. But even so. In time, you'll just see the collisions in the Lovecraftian world and the Minecraftian world. In a way, they're effectively stuck in the same game, and they never really can get out. Riddle me this, though. If you are able to escape the loop, are you sure then the actions you commit in the real world doesn't enforce you either to an early grave or imprisonment or an asylum? For so long that we've already been aware what they call many of the realities in committing crime. These instances is simply a trend. They just do it because, well, it's a trend. They don't really mean harm. But how would folks know that their actual intentions really are just that, or that they actually are serious in spreading a message? It's further manifested through information warfare. It's very easy for authorities to wrongfully accuse these kind of folks. It's a blurred line. After a range of recent events further manifesting to further perpetuate that many of these victims get what they deserve when, in the end, some of them don't. Where they just do it for amusement. Where they're not exactly deliberately harming anything or anyone. And the circumstances are worsening. We're going in this sort of reality. Rape all their freedom. Kill their freedoms. And kill their education. For what pursuit of? A future of crime. Probably. Interventionists. You know full well what they do. Many arts are so difficult to get right. In saying, even this? Shit. Just to be realistic, we don't always feel in the right mental state to play the games, to stream our work. In saying that we can do this daily without our mental well-being being affected, well, that's where you're wrong. You're still too naive. Realize as well, there's many external influences that actually are far deeper than even what we may originally think. But staying closed and keeping the ideas to yourself with not informing the public that they need to take a break just to clear their mind? Or explaining the explicit reason why that some feelings just don't break out of their mind? You know, and this isn't some lie that I made up. March 18th. Yeah, I really was thinking of doing a big hiatus. Really, I was. I didn't decide on this. I just chose to keep doing the streams, but it's at a reduced level between myself and 12. And we've been as clear on this realization that we are not on hiatus. Just making the choice in reducing our own efforts. But this issue on deepfakes and generative AI It's rapidly accelerated at a point that these situations are too serious to ignore now, I feel. It's no secret much of those forms of deepfakes, which target women and girls, with a combination of, well, placing them at such hostile and bleak circumstances, nudifying apps for one thing. Sometimes mixed with celebrities that they like or love. Very brutal and violent situations. Those other women who are the victims, they want to kill those others, for example. Or try to place them in jail for this heinous crime. It's often just that. It isn't only females who are the victims. Transgendered people, and in very often instances, weird, other folks. This includes males. And certain females, too. Even so, was already aware about the actual consequences where you spread generative AI like a plague. That doesn't mean that the repercussions in using it is not real. It is in fact real. Particularly in the energy usage. But others are so naive they wouldn't even care less. Making the next, of course, Large Hadron Collider, but in digital form. Out of way, for example, Stargate, for one thing. A type of Large Hadron Collider in its own. OpenAI, Microsoft and Google, and even Meta themselves. Many of those big tech groups that are just creating their AI-generated forms or digital forms of the Large Hadron Colliders, competing with each other in the race to the bottom. Those wells do have a bottom, of course, but it's sometimes a point where an abyss so deep where you can never get out, that's never a good thing. Some just don't care, and that's how it is. But when we think realistically, virtually all of these roads do have an end. Pitch blackness at the end of the tunnel. Death, that's what I mean. The end of the road. The finish line. Say whatever you will. Honestly, it's another reason that I describe every single day as a normal day. There are no special days in either mine or 12's calendar. If you think of it, you think of what April 20th also is. It's not only 420 Day, it's Easter Sunday as well. This season, this year. And it's brought up as well because we already know from our raw experiences not everybody celebrates either day or both. This is reality. Yeah, eat gaff if you believe in one or the other or both, I don't care. You lied to yourself, You are fallible. We all are fallible. We're mortal. We are all fallible. If you still can't take the heat, graduate and or terminate your account. Leave. Some systems are so cold and extreme, even you wouldn't be able to be keeping up with the kids. Or with the big tech companies. Traditionalism's already been abandoned. At the same time as well, we will never endorse the stories where massacres will increase, suicide rates will increase, psychosis will increase. The amount of brainwashed MFers, regardless of gender or belief systems, will increase. This is not all about relevancy now. It's being true to yourself. Far more critical now than ever before. You think I'm just joking around here? You think Gekito Basis down here is one who's just making this crap up? It's real easy for folks to deny people that get aggressive, but it's still important controlling your anger. To think critically. Some places are areas where they punish aggressors. Treat us the same as everyone else, as psychopaths and extremists. But how would they know that our opinions are real? When sometimes they misunderstand that. But beyond all this, they tend to forget. There's many emotions that make the world go around. Maybe we get aggressive verbally, but not physically. It feels like sometimes some authorities don't know that difference. There's a reason there's different protest movements where they don't get violent physically. They still standing up for a noble cause, except there's still authorities who still disperse and attack. Get so far as pointing that as top priority instead of why the movements are fighting for specific causes that feel like they're brushed aside. Criminals, when in the end they ain't in fact criminals, they stand up for a noble cause, but it's sometimes misinterpreted a different way. Many systems can completely lose the First Amendment as well as Second Amendment. There's others who would protect their places with weapons. However, though, it isn't all with physical weapons. It's in digital form as well as cyber form as well. Those threats just as serious when we speak in the current fifth generation warfare systems, and where the importance in maintaining being true to ourselves matter more than to listen to the clones and phonies and the deep fakes that are increasingly circulating in our beloved systems. Another variant of the digital or the cybernetic drug, or multiple drugs. Creative freedom is still as important. To own what you do own. Never throw it away for anything. We've been already aware about the notoriety by a lot of other companies who just strip without warning. All of this hard work up in smoke in just mere minutes. I know the feeling too much and too well. But those feelings have wrecked way too many players. For others, even if they return, where they are still constantly violated and abused. They still just stood up for what they believed in, but no one really did behind it except the tiny handful that did, that understood. No matter how hard that those others continued attacking, those little shining lights continued to point out that there are other places where you'll be respected. Being a VTuber sometimes doesn't get you the same recognition as in a private group. And it's not only that, or a real player, which usually just plays games and grinds the same game again and again and again and again. Even so, the primary reason to why that I've reduced my actual streaming uptake especially during both February and March 2025 was to start to actually recognize some of the materials we do is real, but we sometimes perceive in our mind that it is not real, but we do what we do. But that's where the matter screws us up even more. It's unfortunate. Many streamers, not just in the United Kingdom, but in many areas in Europe, have actually forcibly stopped doing this work. To say that I'm making this up, I'm telling you right now, many have quit. If you're still in this game, realize this. We may be in the fringe minority, the ones outside of Europe, but it's still a real issue that does have real world consequences and implications. True. That was even made even further, made a detrimental situation at the Starmer government than to punish the quote-unquote white people in punishments twice as severe as with women and of people of other ethnicity or race. Even I'm still livid about it. The one which had me even thinking about those groups in UK and in Europe in the first place is this the Make It Fair campaign. Way back around the 25th of February. I do hear the adage many times that the strong survive this cyber war. But there's much more intricacies underneath. When I used to be very, very young, or 12 was, I never existed until roughly 2009, by the way. But 12, when he still was discovering about the realities and growing up in a more technology imbued system. Rarely did he actually leave in his bedroom, in a single bed. On occasions it was a double or a queen size bed. And a couple of tables, one that had a CRT television that's usually over roughly 25 inches in a diagonal size. And did own a couple that were larger. A couple of consoles that usually had just only a composite video and audio cables. The ones cables that are marked with yellow, white, and red colored cables. To many of us folks, that was just the standard of it. That, and then in the mid and late 2000s, with a television that's capable of component, not inherently with any HDMI cables in the back, but it's because starting around 2007, 2008, televisions, albeit they were usually expensive, well, that's what you expected anyway, where there was a very select series of LCD televisions, there's a few plasma ones, HDMI capable, either with one port or two ports. Speaking in our times when when 12 then had suffered a great deal of amnesia in his early life. He still valued art in some way, but given at that time he never understood things and sometimes he swore randomly. These days though, He's uneasy on the idea to stare back on his reflections of the past. Yeah, it's something I can defend because just earlier the 2nd of April, where he decided that he would listen to the context and everything in the track called Gangster's Paradise, or Gangsta's Paradise, as it's more commonly known as. Understanding at a level of the lyrics and the meanings and how it still had a huge impact on Gen Y, Gen Z, that and even the millennials. And then of Believe by Cher, the such hits of the 1990s that are still infamous by many fans. Yeah, and then some iconic other songs by Mariah Carey and Madonna. Fatboy Slim, many would never forget many of the iconic tracks of that one-man group. Yeah, it was what it was. Yeah, it was right here, right now, and waking up to find that your love was not real. It was right about then. It was the Funk Soul Brother. Just check it out now. The Rockefeller Skank. Well, then, the Crazy Frog, another special, talent, albeit virtual talent. Many of us will never forget the track that is, in my personal opinion, still one of those great novelty techno tracks, but I just loved it when I was younger, personally speaking. No, the one in question? The remix of XLF. Yeah, the one from the Beverly Hills Cop movie. But even with everything that people say, there's others who'll be rickrolled. Though, look, listen. There are many memories in pop culture. Kylie Minogue herself will arrange big hits in her catalog as well. And for many, many years, in a way, an icon in dance music and pop music in general. Yeah. I actually have little to no idea what exactly had occurred in recent years because there's no point in ignore the scale, really, of some of those talents. Particularly in those times in the past. But yeah, it's quite a rich pool where we only just spoken probably about 15 to 20% of the stuff I remember. There's many reasons that I wouldn't even give it up. Remaining true to my personal views of society in general. We never can call them all the same. And we don't all swear the same way either, you understand? We do not all swear the same way. We do not behave in the same manner as everyone else does. In one way, we're a range of enigma. Though we're not all perfect either. Here are my last words, folks. What's most important in today's system is staying real, remaining analog of ourselves, and not to take all this generative AI stuff and deep fakes stuff and many different variations lying down and pretending that it's just a small trend that'll just pass through like the wind. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Truth is, that's still important to understand what's a threat, or what are threats to our systems. In saying, of course, that it's simply trends that will come and go, it won't be. We still have to be in there being the soldiers of the art, which matter way more than what programs would ever, no matter how advanced they are, can replicate. But beyond this, it's still important to be loving our own works. We don't do everything perfectly either. Still, those many such moments are such critical steps in our development as streamers and gamers. Stating, of course, that the art has been dying for a while. In a sense, it's true, but at the same time, the ones who are still around here must still be aware some art forms cannot be replaced with with programs where they do many things, even, which do them well or arguably better than humans. But our input is still critical even now. And stating it ain't is proof. You just rather succumb into your own shells. End everything. You become too compassionate and too warm. Slowly but surely, the experiences will kill you. There is no other wording around this. It simply would get so severe you'd become the Terminated. But sometimes, in the system, being aware, underneath the masks, you still have to play your role. It's a little extreme sometimes, except this is how it is. And if you still are too weak to accept reality for what it is, you're free to just go and end everything and never listen or hear or see from you folks again. And, well, either kill yourself or remain in the system but never really come out and be recognized again. Go back in the low-profile areas of the circles. I've already learned many times the hard way myself. It's a cruel system in various occasions if people are ill-prepared for it. Many secrets will be exposed, and that responsibility, if they continue or end the project, is up to them. Though the culture of these bots, this is my opinion, have become too devastating for their own original purposes. Even so, we still have to hunt. Both cleaner and sharper than they, or else we will be the next victims. We say two different lines here as part of the Arnold Live 12 Multimedia Project and its partners. It doesn't matter what tech we use. We manifest until our mind is satisfied. And be the better hunter. Do not become the haunted.